Right, welcome to this lesson, how to read money values. So today we'll be learning on how to look out for decimal points, how to read money values, and how to compare which value is greater. So these three things are very important when we are dealing with money. Alright, so the first things first is we need to know that there are actually 2-digit values behind the decimal point. Okay, I repeat, there are always going to be 2-digit values. So 2 different numbers behind the decimal point. Let's look at this example over here. Alright, what are the 2-digit values behind the decimal point? It's quite obvious. The number is a 5 and a 0. So these are the 2-digit values over here. So 5 and a 0 adds up to become 50 cents in this case. Alright. And then if you look at this one here as well, the digit value is also behind and it's also 50. Alright, so now let's cover on the decimal point. Alright, so this is very, very important. Decimal point basically is the dot that appears after the last 2 digits. Alright, it appears after the last 2 digits and it will always be appearing after the last 2 digits. Alright, there are some cases where the money value does not show a decimal point. So in this case, you will take everything as the dollars instead. Alright, so decimal point only appears for when you're showing the dollar part and the cents part, if any. In this case, the last 2 digits 50 adds up to 50. This is the cents part. Alright, and then you will see that after the one number on the left hand side of the decimal point, this is the dollars portion. So in this case, you will see the number is 4. Right? So the money value of this would be $4.50. So remember to take note of the decimal point, which is over here. Take note of decimal point. So as I repeat again, numbers on the right hand side of decimal point are the cents portion, and numbers on the left hand side of the decimal point would be the dollars portion. Alright, so this is the cents, and this portion here would be the dollars. Alright, so interesting. Alright, so now let's look at the scenario when you want to compare which value is greater. There are 2 different scenarios we will cover here today. First things first, if you look at these 2 values over here, the first thing you must do is to always compare the number between the decimal points. So we'll look at the dollar portion here. So where is dollar portion? We talked about it. This is on the right hand side. So in this case, you will see these are the 2 dollar portions. The left hand side of the decimal point. So what are the numbers? Number first is 4 on the left hand side, and the second number is 5 on the right hand side. So ask yourself, which number is greater? If you look at your number line, which is greater? Is it 4 or is it 5? Now in this case, do we bother about the cents portion? Answer is no. We do not bother about cents portion as long as the dollars portion, they are the different numbers. So we don't need to bother about this part. We don't have to bother about this part. We only bother about the 5 and the 4. Alright, just to clarify. So in this case, quite obvious, $5.50 is greater because 5 is bigger than 4. Alright, 5 is bigger than 4. So now, let's look at the second scenario. What if both dollar parts are the same? So in this case, the dollar part here, numbers are 4 and 4. As I mentioned, they are on the left hand side of the decimal point. So 4 and 4, they are both the same numbers. So if both numbers are the same, you are going to look at the cents part. So look at the 50 and look at the 55. So let me ask you right now, which number is greater? Is it 55? Or is it 50? So the answer will be 55. 55 is greater. So in this case, $4.55 is greater than $4.50. So if you got this, you're right. Okay, so we recap. We covered on to look on the decimal points first. We talked about the dollars parts, we talked about the cents part, and if both are the same, we compare the cents first. Alright, and that is the end of the short lesson.